Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my first Gose. At least I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, if any of you are watching thinking, Tom, you've definitely gozed about a Gose before, well actually it's the same beer. This I tried back at the big Blue Monkey new craft beer launch event a few months ago. I did kind of review it, although to be honest I had so many other beers that day it started to get a bit lost in terms of flavour profile, so I thought I'd bring it back for a full review. What we are going to do is get into the beer, talk about that, and then talk about what a Gose is actually meant to be like, because, well, frankly, I'm not really sure. So before we do then, here is a quick look at the can. It's a peach margarita Gose, this one, 4%. And to be honest, I think that flavour description, that beer description, I'm not expecting much in terms of margarita itself, but of course Goses are meant to be salted, so that kind of fits nicely. I'm really just seeing this as a peach Gose, but let's find out. There's a lot to talk about with this beer immediately. I mean, in the glass, it's nice peachy coloured, frankly, and the head is pretty much immediately dissipated. It's cloudy, as I think you can probably tell, and yeah, I don't know, it's just got a nice juicy looking quality to it. It does look a bit thin if you slosh it around, but then again it's 4%, that's probably to be expected with this style. And the aroma on opening, and as it was very effervescent after it got in the glass. There was heaps and heaps of carbonation that immediately left and ran away. But while that was happening, the aromas were light, fruity, floral, but also had a bit of a champagne kind of vibe to it that you don't get in many beers. So that is interesting. Right then, aromas. Thankfully, that kind of champagne effervescence has died back a bit. It's undeniably going to be a bit sour, as we'd expect, and there's both a soft, sweet fruit aroma to it. It is fairly peachy, a little bit of mandarin, but also quite a sharp fruit, nondescript edge to it, which really I think is what just signifies that it is indeed going to be a bit sour. There is something about it that makes it distinctly non-beery, which I guess might also be the reason for the margarita in the description. It's got that boozy mixed fruit, but not quite sure what it is kind of a thing going on. But anyway, let's give it a go. Cheers. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. It's very layered, this beer. It's got fruity notes. It's got some sourness, but it's not a properly massively sour beer. If you don't like sours at all, probably not for you. If you're on the fence and like them when they're well balanced, then yes, absolutely. So it's got some fruitiness to it, but also the back end of this beer is doing something really interesting, because there's a nice, sweet, almost bready malt profile that is getting hooked in with that Gose saltiness, which, frankly, it feels like you're going from a kind of a sweet and sour sweet, you know, those kind of like Haribo sour things, and then shifting all the way through flavours until you reach, like, I guess, like salted pretzel at the end, which is, well, somewhat appropriate given the beer style does have German origins. But yeah, that's I have to say, coming across quite differently to my first experience with it, and not in a bad way. When I first had it, I think just because I'd had a lot of other bigger, breadier, maltier beers before it, the malt base in this got a bit lost and was very much just kind of spritzy, sour, fruity, which, to be honest, that component of it is very good and is exactly what you'd expect. But the hidden treat in this is that solid malt beer backbone that just leans back into on the aftertaste that you don't get in a lot of modern sours. Right then, top to bottom taste test time, so you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. So initially, Pretty heavily carbonated on the front of the tongue. It's not aggressive, it's just very, very spritzy. Again, champagne-like. It even gets you on the lips, this thing. It's really quite tingly. Tingly lips, indeed. And then that's kind of met with a nice, high acidity, but still sweet fruitiness, stone fruit and orange. It's peachy, but it's also kind of, you know, orange, nectarine, all those kind of sweeter citrus merging into stone fruit flavours. In the middle, you get a bit of a drop off in intensity, but it's made up for in subtlety. You get more of the sour component, even though it's not very strong, and more, well, something just more balanced, more considered. The very start of this beer is very fizzy, sweet shop stuff. The middle part, that is still there, but you start to get just a hint of the malt, a hint of the saltiness, which again you end up in kind of, I guess, fruit pastry almost with that. And then, as I said, right at the end, you get a nice big kick of, well, bitter sourness tickling the back of your taste buds, and then light, fruity, bready, and eventually that salty lick, which it's not overly apparent, the salt. I think if you'd had this as a blind test, I'm not sure you would have definitely picked out that it was a Gose. But that said, I've not really had any, so I don't know. This might be just the style, but yeah, it's subtle and ever so tasty. Right then, let's take a look at the can. On the front of the can then, Blue Monkey award-winning craft brewery Peach Margarita Gose at 4%, unfiltered and unfined. On the side it says drink fresh, keep cold, recycle. And then it says Peach Margarita Gose, 4%, the hops are Magnum. Brewed and canned at Blue Monkey Brewing Limited, their address in Nottingham, which is, as you know, just around the corner from me, which is why I like them so much. And their ingredients are water, orange zest, so that explains a lot, peach and passion fruit puree. What I was saying about all the kind of both stone, citrus, all kind of merging into one, that explains it. It's also got sea salt, barley, wheat, and yeast. I don't really know what they set out to do when doing this. I mean, based on the ingredients, it was certainly a Gose, but I don't know. This is just so very different to what Blue Monkey have ever done traditionally. And of course, this whole new craft beer range from them is about branching out and trying new things. But this is so different and yet so brilliantly executed, it's left me a bit lost for words. But have they actually met the mark based on what the beer style is meant to be? Which again, I don't really know, so we're going to find out. Or is it something a little bit unique? Let's find out what a Gose is actually meant to be like. So I'm consulting everybody's favourite Wikipedia for this. It says, Gose is a warm fermented beer that originated in Germany. It is usually brewed with at least 50% of the grain bill being malted wheat. I mean, it doesn't say, but in the ingredients order, barley does come before the wheat. So, I mean, maybe they're even. Who knows? But it's definitely wheaty, so it feels relatively as intended. Dominant flavours in Gose include lemon sourness, yes, a herbal characteristic. Now, this is a peach margarita Gose, so it would be expected not to be exactly as per the label, but not hugely herbal. There is some depth to those fruity flavours that maybe starts to get a little bit reminiscent of, I don't know, drinks like Jägermeister, but only just touching the surface, really, not as deep and brash as that. So I'm going to say no on the herbal characteristic in general, and a strong saltiness, which is as a result of either the local water sources or added salt. It's not strong saltiness, but it is there if you know you're looking for it, if that makes sense. I think it could be easily missed if you weren't familiar with the style. But I think what they've done with a lot of this new range is adapt beers almost to the letter, but make them just that bit more accessible, so that the people who've only ever drank their best bitter or standard pale might just give it a go and go, you know what, that new stuff, it's a bit of alright. And to be honest, that is where it's left me as well. The aromas really haven't changed. It's got that slight astringency on the nose that you get with pretty much all kind of forced sour beers, i.e. when it's not farmhouse ferment, it's actually added sour bacteria, which I assume this is, although it's not on the ingredients list, so I don't know, maybe they've soured it a different way, but it has a distinct sour nose to it, which I think if you stick your nose in there for too long probably would certainly grant me a headache anyway. But the flavour on this, for something that starts as such a very high intensity, spritzy, acidic thing, to roll off into that beautiful, as I said, almost salted pretzel backbone, it's one hell of a roller coaster, and I'm really, really digging this. Blue Monkey, as always, you've done it again. Cheers. And that is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, if you will be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.